Welcome to Triumph and Disaster, a show dedicated to manly creativity and culture. Brought to you by your host, Cameron McHarg.
Hey guys, how's it going? This is Cameron McHarg, and this week we have casting director Billy DaMota on. He's actually more than a casting director. He's really another perfect guest for the show. He's a poet, he's a musician, rock guitarist, writer. He's directed a little bit, but he's primarily a casting director in movies like Commando, Predator, Colors, The Crow. He's worked with guys like Billy Bob Thornton, Dennis Hopper, Sean Penn, Ed Harris. He's worked in music videos with bands and musicians like George Strait, Dave Navarro, Ministry, Toby Keith, and the Ramones. Pretty cool stuff. So we just talk about a lot of cool stories in this one. And so we met at a little kind of a coffee shop kind of joint in Glendale, California, and we had lunch there. And we did it during the podcast, so apologize about that. There's a little bit of eating going on, and the first half of it is a little bit noisy, and then the crowd kind of cleared out, and the second half of it is much better. And we might even have another episode at some point because I really enjoyed it. We had a lot of good stories. So here we go. Billy DaMota on Triumph and Disaster. So we're on now, and I'm sitting here with Billy DaMota in a cafe that everybody knows him in, like he's Norm on Cheers.
Good place. We'll put out a little plug for them. The Wooden Fork in Glendale on Brand Boulevard.
So
I
we
sound like a DJ. I sound like I'm doing a radio commercial. Yes. Don't forget to visit the Wooden Fork on Brand Boulevard in Glendale, California.
You're just like my intro guy. He's like, hey, it's Cameron McHarg for the Triumph and Disaster. I don't want to make fun of that guy because he did a good job, but same kind of thing. So we were already shooting the shit a little bit. We were going to talk and kind of talk about what we were going to talk about, but it was already so fucking cool that we
started talking about.
You just said turn it on, so here we go. So you were talking about a bunch of shit, stuff that you were doing.
The last thing you said, which kind of intrigued me, is you talked about the movies of the 70s. You're a big fan.
I'm a huge fan.
Because I tend to lean in that direction with the movies that I cast. I just did a movie called Road to the Well. Badass movie by a guy named John Sivak, who's a brand new filmmaker. It's called Road to the Well with a new guy. He's not really new. He's been around for a while, but he's really starting to break through. His name is Lawrence Fuller. Mm-hmm. And it's a great kind of a road trip movie about a couple of guys that hook up after college. They haven't seen each other for a long time. They take a road trip, but the night before the road trip, one of the guys is fucking a hooker in his car, mm-hmm. and she gets stabbed. And when his partner shows up, they see them both laying on the cement, bloody, with a dead girl. So they have to go on a road trip because they have plans. So they put her in the trunk. Well,
the hooker in the trunk throws a big wrench into the plan for their road trip.
It does. Yeah, that's not really, it doesn't smell very good at the rest stops.
No. But movies from the 70s were fucking huge for me. They're actually why probably I'm living here. I've talked about this before in the show, but yeah. I'm sure I'm sure you probably went to the drive-ins a lot when you were younger.
I did, yeah.
And
there was the Mission Drive-In and the Geneva Drive-In. I grew up in San Francisco, and those were the two big drive-ins. And when we were kids, we used to go see a lot of Sergio Leone because my dad loved Sergio Leone.
Oh, really? At the drive-in?
So at the drive-in.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we would go see, like
Thank you.
Fistful of Dollars or
here.
Whatever. Thank you.
That's me. Thank you.
And
so your dad was pretty big in introducing you to a lot of cool shit too.
He was, but kind of accidentally because he just liked action cowboy movies, and he didn't know they were Italian. He was from Portugal.
Oh, okay.
So he loved everything that was kind of Americana.
Okay.
So he's a big fan. So we went to go see a lot of those. Plus we went to see a lot of horror movies in the 70s, Steve McQueen, he was a big fan of Steve McQueen, so we saw The Blob, whatever else The Great Escape,
right?
Huge movie, The Getaway. I mean, some of the classic, French Connection. I mean,
Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, those are the kind of movies that I cut my teeth on. And then moving into the 80s with like Raging Bull and Goodfellas and it's just 90s. The kind of dark movie with a really strong message, a moral message. You'd always think they were just good guy versus bad guy, but they were personal dramas that were really...
it was very, very gray in some of those movies too.
Which I love.
So we're gonna eat right in the middle of this, so you guys are just gonna have to deal.
Yeah. Having a salad right now.
So, but it wasn't movies originally that you got started with, though, right? You're a musician. You're still a musician, but you started out primarily as a...
Growing up in San Francisco in the 60s and 70s, if you wanted to get laid, you played guitar.
Right.
So I wound up... I started playing when I was 12 years old in bands. My mom taught me how to play the ukulele when I was a wee tot. I think probably 7 or 8 years old, because she used to play ukulele a lot. And I kind of transferred into rock and roll. I actually had a trumpet that I played in the school band.
School band, yeah.
But I was such a fucking nerd. I accidentally in air quotes, lost the trumpet on the school bus so I could get my mom to buy me a guitar. And I started playing in bands, from probably like the mid-'60s on. Moved to Los Angeles, and we had pretty good success in San Francisco, playing local clubs and stuff, but still playing and working and not making a ton of money, but it was just fun.
Rock, right? You played rock
and roll, yeah. We all original stuff. So, and then of course to pay the rent when we weren't playing original stuff, we would play in cover bands,
Covering who?
We did a lot of Motown stuff.
Oh, really?
James Brown, Ohio Players, OJ's, Parliament Funkadelic. For us, if we were going to play live, if we were going to copy somebody else's music, we were going to do what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye, the Spinners.
So when you came to LA a little bit later, was that like in the early
1974?
Okay. So it wasn't even it was before the 80s.
Right.
But you were here then for the... But I don't know if you were casting or you're still a musician when the huge boom hit.
I was still a musician. I was trying to play rock and roll in Los Angeles. I came here because I thought it was going to be a big...
During the huge scene on the Strip and everything in the 80s.
But the problem was that it was right in the middle of... I was here for a couple of years, and then disco kind of took over. And all the clubs that we used to play at started spinning records. The bigger bands, the more established bands were still playing all the Rainbow, the Roxy, the what was called Filthy McNasty's then, which became the Central, which became Johnny Depp's place. It's still there.
Right.
The part of the Viper Room. We played a lot of those places.
But then like in the more like sort of the mid 80s, like when the big sort of hair metal scene kind of started, were you part of that too or no?
No. I would go see, I was a big punk guy, so we would go see a lot of punk bands. I was friends with the Circle Jerks. They lived in my apartment building.
No shit.
And I became friends with Darby Crash and with Flea and with...
Did you ever meet Henry Rollins?
Henry Rollins, yeah, sure.
Yeah?
They were all hanging out. I was living on the corner of Sunset and Larrabee. Right down the alley from the whiskey. It's great, thanks.
That's crazy.
And yeah, it was quite the time. So I was there for the Dead Kennedy riots when there were like 1,000 people that showed up that couldn't get into the whiskey.
Wow.
They shut the whole fucking Sunset. There was like 25 cop cars. People were throwing beer cans and bricks and everything. It was crazy. It was a riot on the corner of Sunset and Clark, I guess, is where the...
Yeah, I know where it is.
Where the whiskey is. But those are the days, when... And then the new romantics scene came in, and, I wasn't crazy about that. I loved Adam Ant because he was kind of like... I don't know if you remember Adam Ant.
I do.
Sort of a sort of a combination of sort of the new romantic kind of, psychedelic Furs, Depeche Mode thing, but with a little bit of a punk thing going on, kind of a tribal thing.
Right.
But that was all the Depeche Mode, Psychedelic Furs,
the new wave.
The new wave of, a lot of English bands, which I wasn't really crazy about. But that whole time I was trying to play, but it was hard because it was all disco. So I wound up getting into the retail business, like all good musicians do when they're not
they had to eat.
Yeah. And I became really successful at it. And
reluctantly?
I wound up getting into the retail business in buying and selling for a shoe store chain in Westwood. And then I got into the automobile business, and I wound up in the sales department at Beverly Hills Porsche Audi in like 1984, when it was like all the cocaine
during the big cokes, all the money rolling around,
right? And they, selling Porsches and Audis at the
Don Simpson and
hanging out at the Playboy Mansion. It was fun.
Yeah. So you're doing okay though, but not doing what you wanted.
Right.
You weren't creatively fulfilled.
No, a friend of mine was an actor, and he said, "You should think about casting." I don't even know what that is. His roommate was a woman named Jackie Birch. She, who's now, I think she's retired, but he said you should talk to her, but she needs somebody to help her. So I met with her. We talked about it, and I kind of knew her already. And I said, "Yeah, I like people and I like movies. I can do this." So she put me to work in 1985, working on Commando. And we were also finishing a movie called Blue City with Judd Nelson and Ali Sheedy, and another movie called Fire with Fire with Virginia Madsen and Craig Sheffer. They were like 19 years old.
They must have been, yeah.
And we were doing she threw me into the fire, basically doing contracts and setting up appointments and booking travel and doing stuff like that. And the first movie I worked on all the way through was Commando, which was awesome. And went on to work with her on about a dozen different movies. We did Commando, Predator, The Running Man, Three Amigos, Project X, the movie with the chimps, and Matthew Broderick and Helen Hunt. It's Helen Hunt's it was actually her first big studio movie.
I have to ask you about Predator.
Oh man, what a great movie.
Because I shit you not, I mean, it is, and it's an 80s action movie, but I think it holds up today. As soon as Arnold, the whole sequence where he discovers the mud and he starts to fight him and he sets everything up and he lights that torch and I still think that holds up. I think it still gives me goosebumps.
Let me tell you why
I love that so much.
Well. I'll tell you a little Predator story.
Please do.
I went to Mexico when they were shooting part of the movie. They shot it in Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
And Joel Silver, who was producing the movie, bought like an acre of jungle just so he could blow up the fucking
just
jungle.
So he could do whatever he wanted?
Yeah. But whatever he wanted was basically flamethrowing the whole, strafing it with
napalm.
Kind of. It looked like the beginning of Apocalypse Now. So he was, we had just finished casting the film. I went down there because I had a free trip and I wanted to go and hang out. They put me up. I was hanging out with a lot of the cast and crew. Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally cast as the Predator. I don't know if anybody...
Oh, I've read that. I have read that.
But because of his acrobatic skills, because he came into our office and basically was hanging from the ceiling, and loved, and he had a 3-picture deal with Canon. You remember Canon, the
sure
production company, but he wasn't.
Canon was like the huge action direct-to-video kind of stuff.
Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus, yeah,
right. Anyway,
a couple of Israeli guys.
I'll put that on the blog. Anything we talk about, I'll put it up so people can see what it is.
Yeah. So Jean-Claude, he had a deal with them for 3 movies, but he hadn't done them yet. So this was his first movie, his first big action movie.
Okay. But you couldn't see him.
Couldn't see him because he had a Predator costume on. Mm-hmm. Every day, he would come up to... There was a guy named Bo Marks, who was a production manager, line producer. He'd come up and say, Mr. Marks, please, can I please take off the mask because you cannot see my face? And Bo Marks said, you're the Predator. We can't.
Right.
Finally, Jean-Claude went up to Joel Silver. He said, Mr. Silver, please, may I please can you make the mask so you can see my face? He says, you're the fucking monster. Go back and work.
Just to preface this, Joel Silver is a massive action movie producer.
Right.
Maybe the biggest, and has a large reputation for being
a dick.
Billy said it.
I know. I'll never work for the guy again.
So go ahead.
So finally, he just kept. He said to me, Mr. Silver, I have no dignity. You cannot see my face. He says, you're the fucking monster. I wound up sending him back to Los Angeles after they fired him. So, I'm telling you the story because I want to lead up to that scene at the end, the last half hour of the movie.
Right. Which is so epic. It's still so fucking good.
They started to shoot because Jean-Claude had done a lot of the green screen. At the time, it was blue screen, where he was in the trees and you could see sort of the figure of the Predator
kind of jumping
around the trees. And they used all that, but none of the stuff that they used where he's actually in costume, none of that stuff they could use.
Because you mean legally after they fired him?
No, I just think because it didn't work out. They weren't crazy about it, and also because of his attitude and whatever. They just said fuck it. So if Jean-Claude hears this, he's probably going to come over and try to kick my ass because he's going to call me a liar. But I was there. So we get back to Los Angeles, and they don't have everything shot because Jean-Claude is gone now. They hire Kevin Peter Hall, 7'2". He's a black guy, since passed away. Mm-hmm. He was in Harry and the Hendersons.
Okay.
He always plays. He's a costume guy, kind of like, I don't know if you know Doug Jones.
I'm a friend of Doug Jones. I was just going to bring that up.
But Doug Jones,
the most famous guy that nobody knows.
Right, exactly.
His face.
Well, he did a lot of that kind of stuff that Doug Jones does now, and he was the Predator in the end. But they built the set 6 months later on a soundstage at 20th Century Fox. All that jungle stuff in the end with the mud and the sliding and the arrows and the things, all on a soundstage.
No shit.
So the reason that the lighting is so great and the camera work is so crisp is because they had the control of an interior that they built. They didn't shoot that in the jungle. They shot that on a soundstage. So if you look at it again, you'll probably see some of the giveaways. But if you notice how clear and how well edited and how well shot and how well paced it is,
because they had the time and the control,
and how great Kevin Peter Hall was as the Predator.
Yeah,
I mean that's the reason that it was that particular part you're talking about was so powerful. You know?
We actually, when I was a kid, I can't really imagine kids doing this now, but maybe they do in the country still. But so I was telling you before, I grew up about 20 miles north of Seattle, kind of in the woodsy area. And when we were only 16, that's about when this movie came out, just to give you an idea of what my age is. We went camping. We'd just take off in a car, and we went out to the middle of this fucking logging road out in the mountains. We'd go camping. We'd have to cross 3 rivers and find this little sandbank. But long story short, we were
sounds
putting
like a horror
mud.
movie.
It could have been. We would cover ourselves in that mud and pretend like it was the Predator.
Like all kids do. It's awesome.
Fucking loved it. So yeah, did you meet Shane Black and stuff too when you were there?
I met Shane Black. He's I think he's doing the new one.
Yeah, I think I read something about that. Bring it back.
No, Shane Black actually came in to read for us, even though he had a deal with Joel already because he went on to write Lethal Weapon.
He volunteered to read for it, or?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, Joel actually wanted him to read for it, I guess, to put him through the paces. You know, he was an actor then.
Oh yeah, before he became he sold
writer.
Lethal Weapon and then he took off, right? But
Right.
As a writer and a director. Let me ask you this: when you just brought this up, because I have a lot of other things I want to ask you about, but when he read for you, like I fucking hate reading. I hate auditioning. Like, I'd like to be able to change my attitude about that, but I'd rather, like, even when I want to cast somebody, when I'm on the other side, I don't really like the processes very much. Like, I would almost rather sit down like in what we're doing and kind of get a feel for someone and just look at their previous work than to make them get up and do that. How do you feel about that whole process? I mean, obviously it's what you do, but I mean,
well, the thing is that it doesn't make any difference how good somebody is, how well trained they are, how right they are for the part. There's certain nuances that you cannot determine until you bring them in front of you. And there may be something that a great actor just isn't getting that you can help tweak to get. I mean, with Shane Black...
And that's where your particular talent as a casting director does. Yeah.
Is about. That's what I do. With Shane, though, it was sort of like... I think it was more he was reading with the other actors. And so
he's just being cool.
Job, you know.
Yeah.
Because Joel wanted to make sure that relationship was solid.
I respect that. I think that's really, really cool.
But the audition process is, I think, important. For me, I think most actors I know love to do it.
Well, speaking of that, when we spoke...
Except for Cameron.
I just put that out there. I'm trying to... I guess I just need to just keep in mind that it's...
I'll just send you an offer.
You just have to keep in mind that you're in there to do the work and just do the work. And
that we're on your side.
Yeah, exactly.
I want you to be as good as you can be. I want you to get the job. I don't want to have to see 90 actors for one role.
I've told people this before. I worked for as a reader for a casting director once for a couple. It was a guy named Aaron Griffith, you know him? And it was one of the most valuable experiences I ever had as an actor.
I used to compete for the horror movie market, you know. When I wasn't doing Aaron.
Yeah, well, it was a horror movie that I was reading him with, and but it's true. Like, you really want people to come in and kick ass, and when they do come in and kick ass, you're so fucking excited for them, you know, and you learn so much.
I think the problem now, though, is that there are a lot of, I don't want to call them lazy, but I just think they're very well-trained casting directors. They don't understand that you don't have to see 20 people if they're all good actors on a different level, or even half of them are good actors. If you work with them, if you give them direction, if you help mold and shape their audition, then it keeps you from having to see 20 other actors.
It's better for you in the long run.
It's better for us in the long run. And also, I think the actors appreciate the help. And I have to tell you, there are times when actors come in and they completely choke. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of casting offices, I won't say most because I don't know how a lot of casting directors work. I can only tell you what I see on TV and what winds up as good acting, which to me is always sort of like not the best. I think that casting directors... Okay, did you want to say something?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, you're right. Where he's interviewing. I know.
We got distracted by a beautiful woman. So anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, you talk about casting people and reading people.
Yeah, I think actors appreciate.
And lazy.
Oh
yeah.
Right. That sometimes an actor will come in and choke.
Yeah.
And somebody will say, okay, great, thank you, next. Instead of seeing the potential there, having the radar to recognize, I mean, this comes from training, but
yeah,
it took me a while, but the one thing I knew I needed to know was how an actor's brain works, and how they make their choices, and how, how they create their history. And for me, when I see that work being done, I don't say, okay, that was great, thanks, next. Just because they choked on the first audition, I'll say, okay, you're on the right track, but here's what I think you need to do. Go outside, drink some water, take 10 deep breaths, breathe, come back in and do it again. And keep this in mind, this in mind, and this in mind. Give them sort of minor adjustments. Things that I know about the character they may not know, that'll help them. And it makes that actor, first of all, it makes him better in that audition, but it makes him better as an actor in all auditions because they realize that it's not always them, It's sometimes sometimes it's the people on the other side of the table that just don't understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, their actors are just plain suck, but there's some that are that you really want to try to get as much out of as you can if you see the talent there.
So speaking of that, and speaking of seeing the talent and being trained, when we spoke on the phone, I guess last week it was, you told me, and this impressed the shit out of me, and I don't know if this is common for casting directors or not, but you said you were going to be doing a weekend workshop with Howard Fine. And Howard Fine, just in case anybody doesn't know, is one of the big league acting teachers in LA. And you said you're going to be doing a workshop. And then just today, before we got this started, we were talking a little bit. You were asking about me and my background, and I talked about the Strasberg stuff. And you said that you actually taught at the Strasberg Institute here in LA. So these are a couple things that I didn't know, and I'm really fucking impressed with, because anybody that, even if you're not an actor, even if not, you didn't want to do that, if you have some of that training, well, a couple different things. You're going to be able to see and understand what is good or talent, even if they do shit the bed, like you said, when they come, you're probably going to be able to see something there because you have a certain awareness that you wouldn't have without that.
You become, there's a certain sixth sense that you have, but
yeah, you can see through people a little bit because you know yourself a little better, I think.
It started, and I don't think very many, to answer your question, I don't think many casting directors do this, but when I was in 5 years into my casting career, 1989, I saw so many great actors in my office, and every time I would turn the resume over, it would say Howard Fine. What's this guy doing? So I went to audit his class on a Monday night. Yes, you can audit his class. So I saw amazing performances, great work. I said, Howard, how do you do this, man? How do you get this out of acting? As a casting director, I would just love to know.
Which says a lot about you, dude. That you really want that you care and you want that good shit.
It's like Napoleon Hill says, mastery. The more you know about your craft, and then the more you know about the tools that you have to work with, the better you can be at your craft. So, in order to improve or to enhance my mastery, he asked me if I wanted to join the class. And I said, Howard, I'm not an actor. I've never done acting. I played the tree in Charlie Brown's Christmas and in grammar school. And he said, take the class. Take my basic technique class. So I took his 12-week class. And after it's now called Foundation. And after the 12 weeks, he said, I'm not letting you go. You're going into my master class. And he put me right into his master class. But the funny thing is, if he hears this, he'll tell you it's true. He always used to pull me aside and say, Billy, you need to get out of casting, and you need to start acting.
No shit.
Yeah. And I was like, nah.
You just didn't have that bug.
I didn't have the passion that actors have. I love doing it, but not for a career, not for something that I think I could turn into a livelihood. And frankly, I like paying the rent. So
yeah.
But I would do it anyway if I had enough passion. But I didn't. But so I studied with him for 3 years in his master class, and I saw so many people in his class that had gone on to do TV series and movies and become movie stars. He was the He was the on-set coach for Brad Pitt in an Interview with a Vampire.
Oh, really?
He was the and the list is as long as my arm. The people that he's actually private coached, and the work that comes out of that studio. And this is not a Howard Fine sales pitch.
Yeah,
kinda. But the work is just phenomenal. So about 3 or 4 months ago, he's my Facebook friend, and he puts up a post about how he's got a studio in Australia now, and he says, I'm coming back from Australia, and I'm gonna when I get back, I'm gonna do an intensive, a 4-day master class intensive. And so I posted it on my Facebook page, and I said, anybody that hasn't studied with Howard needs to. It's the best thing you can do for your career. And he emailed me and said, would you join my master class? Would you be one of my students? And of course I was flattered, and I said yes. So I just came back Sunday. This past Sunday was the last of my 4 days in his master class intensive, which were just the most incredible 4 days of my life as a casting director, because you think you know it all. No matter what you do, you think, yeah, I got that.
There's always more.
But man, so sometimes you just get slapped around, and not in a mean or bad way, but just like, fuck. What I wasn't thinking. I'm just missing it. Sometimes you're just out of touch. You are not grounded anymore. And the great thing about Howard is he puts you right back into the space, that grounded, solid space of being an actor, and recognizing your skills and your talent as an actor. So I'm so happy he invited me, but I'm even happier that I'm able to apply that in my work as a casting director.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, how that bleeds over into your other creative endeavor, even music, or as a casting director, or just in your life.
It does. I mean, it's getting in touch with yourself. It's understanding Hold on one second.
Oh, she's back.
Ellen, I wanted to apologize. Ellen, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm not judgmental. And both my parents died from smoking. So I always, whenever I see it, it's a visceral response for me. Anyway. Yeah.
So it kind of hit the reset button for you a little bit.
But it crosses all platforms. No matter what I do, as a musician, as a writer, I'm an author. I'm a
You're
poet.
a poet, right? Yeah.
Whispering Lunacies, Amazon.com.
I'll post everything on the blog, Triumph and Disaster blog.
And so it helps you connect with a place that sometimes just gets away with you as a human being.
Yeah.
And so I'm always grateful to be in a class, and I'm especially grateful that Howard invited me to be in his class. And I think any actor in this town that is not studying on a consistent basis, I don't care how good you think you are, being in a class just opens up doors that are not available to you otherwise. So.
Yeah. You get rusty. You need to keep the cobwebs knocked away.
It's not even rusty. What happens is you get lazy. You forget. You don't do the work. You don't do the homework. You don't do the research.
You lose your discipline.
Right. You lose your discipline.
Yeah.
And so getting back into the class helped you be a more disciplined artist. And I just think that's...
Do you have a daily practice of any kind, in any way? Whether it's an artistic one, or maybe sort of something to kind of ground you, like you were talking about losing your sense of being grounded? You don't even have to say what it is if you don't want.
No, but I do, and it always has to do with music, because I'm a musician and I'm a songwriter, and so I'm always writing. Sometimes it turns into a poem, sometimes it turns into a short story, sometimes it turns into a movie. I wrote a short film a few years ago called Posey, a movie with Sally Kirkland, Academy Award nominee.
Who I actually have talked to about studying with a long time ago. I don't know if she still teaches or...
Yeah, she does. She does private coaching.
Yeah.
She starred in this movie with Erica Rhodes, an amazing actress and stand-up Jason Stewart, Christopher Pennick, who was on the old Dark Shadows series, the original from
That's
the
cool.
60s. There's a film about a woman who is suffering from Alzheimer's, and her granddaughter's her granddaughter has to put her into a retirement home. And it's all the sort of sadness and fear and guilt that come out of that kind of a situation. So I wrote and I directed that one.
And this came out of you in sort of an accidental way, from daily practice kind of a thing.
It was accidental. You know, I meet with a lot of actors.
Yeah.
And just hang out with them. You know,
Which is also unfortunately rare in your profession.
It is rare,
now. Now at least.
But for me, it's not just about being a casting director who's looking at your picture and resume. It's about connecting with somebody on a different level. It's connecting with human beings.
Yeah.
So, Erica Rhodes, who's a friend of mine, she was part of the Prairie Home Companion family for 20 years. She started when she was 10 years old, and has been working with Garrison Keillor ever since. But she does a lot of TV, a lot of film. She's an amazing stand-up comic. And I invited her to come see my band one night. You can edit out as much of this as you want.
No, I think it all stays.
And the band was playing in Santa Monica. She lived in Santa Monica. We met for dinner before. And I asked her, I said, like I ask all of my friends, what are you doing now? What are you working on? She said, well, I just started private coaching with Sally Kirkland. Oh, cool. And then she said, we just had to put my grandma in a retirement home. I said, oh, that's sad. He says, well, kind of sad, but she told me the story about how, I forget what her grandmother's name is. It's like Gladys or Doris or something. But she got to the retirement home, and when they were checking her in, they asked her what her name was, and she said Posey.
Just came out.
Came out of nowhere. Because people that are suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's can't remember what they had for lunch, but they can remember childhood names and games and that kind of stuff. So I think that she was regressing to a time when she was younger. So I said, what happened? She said, well, she kind of fit right in. She was a little scared at first, but she fit right in. I said, what a great story. I said, you know what you should do? You should write this and then give it to Sally. Well, Sally's, she's Academy Award nominee.
She wouldn't want to do this.
She wouldn't want to do this. She's my friend, but not that close. I don't have the money to pay her if we did it. I said, all right. Months go by, and I'm sitting in front of the computer one night, doing nothing but finishing up my work. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm just wrapping stuff up, playing on Facebook, and I just get this bug. I pull up my Word file and I type in Posey, a short film by Billy DaMota, and 20 pages later, the sun's coming up.
No shit, really.
And I've got a screenplay. So I sent it to Erica the next day, and she said, "This is fucking great. This is exactly what happened." I mean, it's like I was almost channeling. She said, "There's so many things that are here that work." I said, "Well, take it to Sally." She said, I don't know. So she did. She took it to Sally. Sally never responded. But I said, you know what? I wrote this thing. I got to find a director. I want to make this thing happen. And so I put a breakdown out. Posey, 70-year-old ex-movie star, good looks, a Sally Kirkland type. Her manager called me.
No shit.
And said, hey, this sounds like it might be right for Sally. I said, yeah. And so I said, you should see if she wants to do it. And so we talked about how much money I didn't have. Sally got a call from her manager, and she said, wait, I've already read that script. That's mine. That belongs to me. What are they doing in the breakdowns?
So it turned out she was all over it.
She was all over it when it almost got taken away from her.
Right.
Oh, no. Right. So now I knew Sally because Sally and I used to teach at Strasberg together. Mm-hmm. Different classes, but I knew her from seeing her and meeting her there. And
what years was that, by the way?
when I was teaching?
Yeah.
2006, 2005, 6,
Okay.
7.
I didn't realize that she taught that late.
Sorry?
I didn't know that she was there that late in the game.
I don't know. I think she was actually there before that.
Yeah, but anyway, I was just curious.
Yeah, so I think I came in at the end of her thing.
Okay.
So I went over and met with Sally. Erica and I went over and met with Sally. Erica, of course, playing her granddaughter and in the movie. And we started production 4 years ago, right around this time, the middle of July 2012. I think, yeah. The movie we submitted to like about 300 festivals. It got into 70. Did really well, won awards everywhere. Sally won tons of awards. Best director for me, best screenplay, best actor for Sally. We traveled all over the country, and I actually went to Portugal.
Oh, you did?
To the film festival.
Back to the old country.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty fucking amazing. That, I mean, and this all came from just listening to that little bug in your head in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, you know, sometimes you get inspired by something and it doesn't kick in until months later, you know.
But it's still cooking in your head. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
You can have an idea and then like months later it's more fleshed out and you don't consciously even work on it. But you are working on it. Part of you is working on it.
Right.
I believe that.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump around a little bit, but so the name of this podcast, Triumph and Disaster, comes from a poem by Rudyard Kipling that was famously read by Dennis Hopper on the Johnny Cash show way back in the day, like in the 70s. And that's, you know, the header of the blog that's constantly up there is him reading it. And I bring him up because of Colors.
Right.
So you worked on Colors.
Oh, man.
With him and Robert Duvall and Sean Penn.
Sean Penn.
So this is a trio of like fucking godlike figures in my category.
I mean,
so I met Robert Duvall once briefly, and when you live here for a long time, you meet everybody, or you know, whatever.
Right.
But Robert Duvall was one of those few guys that I actually was a little bit starstruck by because it meant so much to me to meet this guy.
Yeah, I met him on the set. Terrific guy.
Yeah, really down to earth dude.
Yeah.
He just seems like a guy right off a ranch or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he puts on no airs about what he does. He understands. I mean, he's blessed. He understands that he's blessed to be an actor and get paid for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's very gracious to the people around him.
And with Dennis Hopper, I'm friends with his godson, and I really want him on here to talk about him, but he's very protective about his privacy. He didn't want him to, like, you know.
I don't know too much of his family.
Yeah, so I respect that, but did you work with Dennis Hopper at all? Were you there on the set, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll give you the sort of the story of how it started, how it happened. I was casting with Jackie Birch. Did about 10, 12 movies with her. And she took a break to have a baby after The Running Man. I did most of the wrap-up work on The Running Man. She was basically at home being pregnant. Mm-hmm. And she decided to take a break. And Billy, the casting assistant, is now out of work. So I started to work for a talent agency. A friend of mine, you know, that I'd met via casting, said, "Yeah, come work. You can work as an agent." You know, and the thing was, I was in sales for so long. But, you know, I loved being a buyer. You know, as a casting director, I didn't know if I wanted to get back into sales, but I said yes, and because I needed a job. But it wound up costing me money. I wasn't making any money. I wound up investing money in her business and losing money. Unemployed. Or underemployed. Not doing what I wanted to do. So I was sending out resumes. Now, you have to remember that when I first left Jackie, I sent out resumes to everybody. I sent resumes to production companies, to people, to producers and directors I'd worked with in the past. Wasn't getting any response. I gave a resume to my friend Joe Peck. Now, people who listen to this podcast may know Joe Peck as a long time, since passed away, but a long time talent manager who's represented everybody. Kathy Moriarty, Danny Aiello, Chris Penn, every Michael Madsen, anybody that he became friends with everybody, and then because he knew so many people in the studio system, he would find jobs for them, and he became sort of the de facto
natural manager. Yeah.
Right. Nothing was ever signed. He would send people out, and they'd get jobs. And so I gave him he used to come by the set because he used to come to my office because he would always bring talent by, right? I gave him my resume and I said, I'm looking for a job. Keep me in mind. He was best friends with Chris Penn, who was also his client. I
was a big fan of that guy.
Right. They were over Dennis's house one night, and Chris and Joe Peck. He's Joe Peck. He's like this. He talks like this. He's from Brooklyn. Skinny guy from New York. Anybody who knows Joe Peck knows that that's a spot-on impression of him. Hey, what are you working on, Billy? Yeah, fucking A.
I wonder if there's any video of him. I'd like to get it up.
He's great. So he gave my resume to Dennis. Because Dennis, here's the thing, is they had already hired Lauren Lloyd, who has gone on to do some incredible producing. She hadn't really cast a whole bunch. And I think they just wanted a male presence on the set. So he gave Dennis and I guess Lauren my resume. And I got a call when I was visiting my family for Christmas. And my sister comes in and says, hey, Dennis Hopper's office is on the phone. She asked if I said, what are you talking about? People knew I was looking for a job. Somebody's fucking with me. And it was, they asked if I could come in down and meet Lauren Lloyd, who was the casting director, and Dennis, and Sean Penn, who was producing the movie. He's the one who hired Dennis. In fact, he sort of pulled Dennis out of his. He was kind of blacklisted after this movie.
American movie or something? No,
it was the movie that they did in Peru.
Right.
The last
that he was
movie
just
is
just fried hard the whole time.
They were frying on some major.
I can't remember the name, but I'll get it later.
The Last Movie.
The Last Movie. Yeah. Okay. He has that cowboy hat in it, I think.
Right, and it's the story of the natives in Peru who thought they were really killing each other in the Western. They made their own movie with wicker cameras and were killing each other. It was a
disaster. Yeah, wasn't it like Apocalypse Now was some that gave him it was like his first break after like almost a decade of nothing. Yeah.
Well, the movie actually, when it was put together, got pretty good reviews. But the problem was in production, and Dennis told me this story about how he would be on the set, and they were all so high and so paranoid that because they're spending like a big chunk of their budget on drugs.
The film budget was going to that.
Right. So what he would do is he would bury the drugs. Actually, dig big holes and bury them. They could never figure out where they put them.
They'd forget.
Dennis knew where the drugs were buried. Anyway, that's sort of the end of his career for a while.
Yeah.
And Sean said, I want him to direct colors. I want him to do it. And so I went and I met with them, and it was great. I mean, I was sort of Lauren Lloyd's right-hand man and did a lot of I was the casting associate on the movie and worked, helping her find new talent. I had done, I don't mean to diminish her input, but I had done more movies than she had. I cast more movies than she had. And so it was important for her to have somebody around who knew the agents and had the relationships and so. And also, Dennis would take me in his 1978 Seville out to meet gang members that we'd arranged meetings with.
Wow!
At 2 a.m. in Boyle Heights, at 2 a.m. in Venice, at 2 a.m. in South Central, and we go to a park or we go to a big park.
Just you and Dennis, or Sean too, or
just me and Dennis.
Wow!
Me and Dennis in a Polaroid camera.
No shit.
And people would just start to you'd see all these cars, like when we went downtown, and we had a neutral parking lot, and all these red car Mercedes and Porsches and Cadillacs. It was the Bloods.
Yeah,
they're all pulling into the lot, and all the cars are bouncing and stuff. And we get out of our car, and they're all like, "Yeah, man, you Dennis Hopper, man. You was in that Easy Rider, man. And wasn't that Blue Velvet, man? What was that shit on your face, man? What you?"
Yeah.
There was a kindred spirit with these guys. So, they were dancing, they were pulling out their do-rags, they were popping their trunks, and
fucking amazing
machine
experience.
guns and hand grenades, and
you saw that shit?
Oh man,
yeah.
And I have a Polaroid camera. That was my weapon.
Yeah.
So we would see people, we'd take pictures, them and their cars, write their numbers on the back of the Polaroid, and we actually used a lot of their. Here comes
as references. So there's colors right there.
Here comes color.
It's the 5-0.
Color. So
it's DaMota on the beatbox.
That's me. So yeah, that was quite an experience, And then there was one day when we were casting out of Lionsgate over on Bundy when they were over there, and the producers, there were a few different production companies over there. They found out we had gang members coming over, and at around noon, you saw all these Mercedes driving out of the lot. All the producers driving. As all the other Mercedes were driving in.
That's funny.
Yeah, they were kind of scared. So that was a great experience. Then I used to hang out I would go to Hollenbeck and play basketball with Sean and the East LA, gang members and stuff. And he was bonding. Basically what he was doing, he was putting himself into that character. If you saw Colors, about Pac-Man and his character. He was, he wanted to gain a certain level of fame in that community, and so not fame, but connection with it.
Yeah.
And he would go and hang out and just be with them. He actually got a 1978 Plymouth Fury or 1980 that he would use as a. He would basically take it use that as his car, and he would drive around in the parking lot of at night when everybody would go home of Lionsgate. He would just do donuts and work. So all the stunt driving you see in that movie is Sean.
He did it
driving. I mean, I think they had a stunt driver, but he did most of it because he wanted to. He wanted to be that guy going around corners and in that car, and they used that car in the movie, and it was just pretty amazing. But he was so into the character and so into connecting with the people that he was working with. We got. And we got a chance to hire some great new actors, for that movie. Damon Wayans, Gerardo, if you remember, Rico Suave.
Oh yeah. That's right. I mean,
there's a lot of people that we put in that movie that hadn't really even done film before, and it was pretty exciting.
I think
Don
Sean Penn does that a lot. Was he in it?
John Cheadle's
no
first
shit.
big movie.
He must have been like 12.
Yeah, he was a young Rocket. Played Rocket.
Yeah, but Sean Penn hires a lot of non-actors as a director, I think, and directs them really, really fucking well.
He sort of uses the old Clint Eastwood model where, you're the people that you study with. How you doing, man? Good, man. Can you have him bring me some more water with you? Okay, thank you. So yeah, he likes to work within his area of comfort. A lot of the people that he's studied with, and that he's hung out with.
Has some loyalty too.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. You seem like a kind of guy that has that sort of integrity to me as well.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. People think he's a little abrasive sometimes, but I remember when all the negative press on Colors because he punched some guy in Venice. We were shooting on the beach. And he and I would hang out on the set as much as I could. There was a day when some guy, one of the extras on the beach in Venice, we were shooting down there. I don't know if you remember this. If you saw the movie, the scene.
It's been years, but
they hop the car's chasing. He hops. He's running after the guy who's It's Glenn Plummer, the guy with the braids. And they go into this restaurant, they smash through the window, and he smashes his head on the thing. That was all done in Venice, and so we needed extras. One of the extras, while we were on a break, said to Sean Penn, "Hey, man, give me your autograph, man." And Sean says, "You know what?" And Sean's really good about it. At the time, he was dating Madonna.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't do it right now, man. I'm just, And the guy's gotten their beef with him, and he said, "What are you, man? Are you too big, man? You can't. You too big a guy. You can't sign my autograph off for my kid." Man.
This is right in the middle of the shoot.
Right in the middle of the shoot. There's a little break.
Yeah.
And the guy spit on Sean Penn, and don't spit on Sean Penn. If you
No, the dude can box.
Right. The dude can box. And so there was a little scrap there. The police came. Of course, the paparazzi were all there. Sean Penn explodes on the set. But really, he was pushed. And it was
have a strong opinion about the
guy was
paparazzi.
kind of following him around, Same thing happened at we were at, it's not there anymore. I think it was called the Marketplace or something. It was a restaurant in Venice where it was me, Dennis Hopper, Robert Solo, who was one of the producers, Sean, and Madonna. We're all sitting having lunch. Paparazzi started to come in, and they started.
I fucking hate paparazzi, dude.
Yeah.
I don't even care when they get punched.
He says, "Can we'll talk outside?" And they're not there to take his picture; they're there to create a scene.
Okay.
And he's got a temper.
He fell into it.
Also, he was very protective. He loved Madonna so much, and so when they start to confront him and her.
That was the line.
Yeah, it was the line. So there were times when he garnered a reputation of being a bad boy or a pain in the ass, but really it's because
when you see how paparazzi behave in reality, I think they deserve to get socked 90% of the time.
It's true.
And I met Sean Penn briefly one time at a bar, and he was super fucking cool. Super cool, man. Shooting the shit with the bartender and tipping him well, and just a really cool dude. So I don't buy into any of that shit when they talk shit about that.
That's true.
So earlier, and we're just gonna touch and go on this, but I think we need to. When I said I feel like you're a guy of integrity as well, part of the reason from that, aside from just what I know of you and meeting you, is, and we talked about. We're not going to talk about this long, but I feel like we need to touch on the fact that you are quite adamant about protecting actors from...
You're probably going to talk about the casting director workshops?
Just for like a minute.
Okay.
Just because this is what people know you well for.
Let me lay the foundation.
But I don't want to make this about that.
I know, but I do want to say something that's sort of like clearing the air for anybody who's listening to this, and I don't know how big the audience is. And it's sort of my mission now to let people know that I have never said that workshops should be shut down. What I have said is that casting directors who teach a real class with a real curriculum, who are qualified to teach, be allowed to do so. I have great Mark Teschner, Melissa Scoff, Vicky Goggin. I have so many friends of mine.
Yeah, I know of a couple that are really good too.
Teachers.
Yeah,
they're not a lot. But there are some great ones, and I applaud their ability and their right to teach. What I get vilified for is because people think that I'm trying to shut down workshops. What I'm trying to shut down is pay to play. I'm trying to shut down the one-night, single event things where 20 actors sign up. Sometimes, and it's not even in a class setting nowadays, it's in a one-on-one format where you go in, you spend 5 minutes with the casting director, a casting assistant.
An assistant, usually,
very seldom the casting director. And they basically, you read for them, you perform, you give them your picture and resume.
And your money.
You give them the money. They fill out a sort of really stupid evaluation sheet that has nothing to do with education. And it's thank you very much. They may give you a little bit of critique. They may give you a little bit of feedback, but that's not teaching. That's not a class. And according to AB 1319, which is the state law, and according to the CSA guidelines, that you cannot take money from an actor if you don't provide them with a class. So
your actors are paying for an interview.
They're basically paying for what used to be a general interview.
And those things.
if you ever remember general interviews, is where a casting director would invite an actor to meet with them for coffee at their office, 5 minutes, sometimes a reading.
Yeah.
Take on different kind of formats depending on what it is. But it was always. But now what's happening in those general interviews are still happening, but for a fee, and it's the fee that bugs me. So
yeah, and so we won't get into any more than this, but other than like whether you think it's fine or you don't, you kind of stuck your dick out there on that chopping block by you saying what you believe in, and you still do, and so I admire that.
Well, you know what? Fuck them if they don't understand. My biggest problem is that my colleagues, my Casting Society of America colleagues, and my other casting colleagues that are not in the CSA have vilified me because they don't understand what I'm trying to do.
Which I just tried to
explain.
Yeah,
or
clarify.
They're saying that I'm trying to shut down all workshops because they want to continue doing what they're doing, which is the pay-to-play thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact is that every actor knows what they pay for. Every actor, every casting director knows why the actor's there. It's not to demystify anything. It's not to teach you about the process. It's, sure, you can learn something, but that's not the intent. The intent is for casting directors to get paid to watch actors do scenes. There's my telephone.
What do you think, like... Are you going to call? What do you think happened? Are casting directors somehow more busy now or something? Or where did that change? How did that happen?
No, they're not more busy. They're more greedy.
Okay.
What's happened is that and I say greedy when I don't mean every casting director.
Of course.
There are other casting directors who give a lot of time away and are very, but I don't care if you love your grandmother and you call her on Sunday and you donate to charity and you love puppies. if you exploit the acting community and try to call it something else to rationalize your behavior, that's a bad thing. And I think what's happening is that the casting community is, I don't remember exactly what the question was, but the casting community vilifies me because they're trying to protect something instead of trying to change that thing.
I was asking how, like, back in the day, and it wasn't necessarily easy, but you could meet an actor could meet a casting director.
Yeah,
they
do have their
and now it's
TV
like
casting.
The walls are up,
is like trying to meet people is tough because it's hard. But my contention is that if you've got 3 hours, 2.5 hours in an evening to get paid $400 to meet actors, you can find that time during the day. It's funny how you don't have any time in your life until somebody gives you a check.
Yeah.
So that's what bugs me. It's like, find the time. Donate your time to the SAG Foundation Casting Access Project workshops. Go to the SAG Conservatory and become a part of their speaker bureau. Most of the casting assistants that are doing workshops, have been doing it for a year or maybe two, and frankly, they may be great teachers, but I don't know what they have to share. So
yeah, all right.
Anyway, I just think that they should be more responsible to the people that they owe their career to, and that's what I do.
Fair enough. We're going to move on from that then.
Let me say one other thing, and it's not going to be about workshops specifically, but it's about I can't change the way people think. I can't change the way people do their business. I can't make somebody be nice or kind or giving or open or caring. I can only lead by example. And hopefully that example will infect the people that see what I do.
Yeah.
That's all I can do. Respect.
Okay. We're going to move away from that. It just felt like that's something we kind of had to talk about because you're pretty, pretty well known for it. No, we're keeping everything, dude. So, just a couple more things. We're gonna wrap up because we both have some stuff we got out of here pretty soon. But I had to ask you a couple things. I'm a huge Billy Bob Thornton fan since way back in the day. I saw many years ago some interview with him, He was talking about how he was literally fucking starving. I think he was working at a Shakey's or something, or selling pencils or something. I forget what it was, but he had to go to the hospital because he was like living on potatoes or something like that. Like he had like a heart attack or something. It was some crazy shit. And then he got a movie called Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town.
That's correct.
How did he get that?
Yes, he did. Well, it starts with, I met Billy Bob, came in to read for me a few times, and we became friends. Mm-hmm. Really good friends. We started writing together. And in fact, before Chopper Chicks was even a movie, or even an idea, Billy Bob and I used to hang out right up here in Glendale at a place called Shakers. So it was called Salt Shakers then. We used to brainstorm about about what he wanted to do with his career and what we could do to try to, get our writing out there and whatever. So we came up with a plan to do. He was a great writer,
He's a fantastic writer.
And he hadn't written anything. The thing is, he wrote a few things for my class when I was studying with Howard Fine.
No shit.
This was like in the sort of late 80s. And so I said, why don't we put together a showcase? So we designed a 2-night show at the Tiffany Theater. You probably don't remember.
I do remember. Actors Studio used to do stuff on there. Yeah. It was on Sunset, yeah?
It was on Sunset and just west of Los Angeles.
Right.
And we rented the Tiffany because I had a friend of mine who was the house manager there for 2 nights. And we put on a thing called Swine Before Pearls. And it was for industry. It was an industry showcase. All stuff that Billy Bob had written. I directed the things. There were a bunch of little one-acts and scenes. A lot of his friends and my friends that we cast. And we put it on 2 nights. We sent out invitations. We got about 150 people the first night in a 99-seat theater.
Wow.
And the second night...
Not easy in this town, by the way.
And second night, because it was... The word of mouth got around, there were 200 people there that night, standing room only. And it was absolutely awesome. So Billy used to come in and read for me a lot, and I finally brought him in for this movie, Chopper Chicks. And he kicked it out of the park, and we just, we became good friends from that point on, and, the rest is history. And I still see him every once in a while. I was trying to find a recent picture of him, but I can't find it. But
seems like a great guy.
He's a really good guy. He's an old and dear friend, and...
do you know Barry Markowitz by any chance?
I don't.
Okay.
I was going to say, I just wish I knew I could see Billy more. I haven't seen him in so long.
He was the DP in a lot of his movies, Sling Blade and All the Pretty Horses and some other stuff. And they're good. Anyway, I know him. I thought maybe you might know him as well. I'm going to try to have him on the show as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
He's Billy Bob's a good man.
So, and another thing I wanted to ask you about, and we'll wrap it up here in a second.
Okay.
So I'm a huge fan of Ed Harris as well.
Yeah.
And huge fan. And I read a book, and I unfortunately can't remember the name of the book.
It's called You're Either In or You're in the Way.
That's the one. So
that was the Miller
these two
brothers.
guys, were they twins or just brothers?
Miller brothers, they're twins.
Yeah, they're twins. Really inspirational book. I'll put that up on the blog as well. So I read this, fucking love this book. These guys just struggled and just pinched together whatever they could and met Ed Harris in an alley with their script, literally gave their script to him like
right
that.
outside the Castro Theater in San Francisco.
Just throwing a Hail Mary to try to get him.
They had their laptop up. They were smoking cigarettes and joking out by the dumpster. And it was a movie. And they'd already shot some footage in Arizona about baseball.
Yeah.
And, Ed Harris is a huge baseball fan. They basically gave him the short story, the synopsis. And he said, okay, call my agent. I'll do it.
And he fucking did it. It took a little time, and it was unbelievable hard work, but he fucking did it.
The reason it took time is because whenever you get the agents involved, and they want,
I've discovered
10% of nothing is not, they don't like that. So.
Well, no agent, exactly. No agent wants their guy to do a tiny movie.
Right, that's right. So basically, what we try to do is we try to make the best deal we could with the agent. make Ed happy, but he eventually just loved it. And if you saw the movie,
it's amazing. I haven't seen the movie.
It's so good.
But it's amazing the way it happened. And
what the name of it is now.
I think I have it.
It was
Touching Home?
Touching Home, right?
Touching Home.
It was called something else that I always remember it by, but
probably the book.
Yeah. But yeah, that was great. And Ed was a dream to work with, you know. I mean, I wasn't on the set for that one, but everybody loved Ed. And he's such a giving, you know, amazingly supportive actor to the people around him.
That's the real deal.
Yeah,
that's what the best ones do.
You know, that's why we're in this business. You know, we're in this business not just to be, you know, not just to have a career as an actor, but to kind of connect with other people and have a human connection. And I think that's what we miss so much.
All right, I think we're going to wrap it up. And it's been fucking great, man. Thanks for taking a few minutes and shooting the shit with me.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on, dude.
I got to go put money in my meter. I'm
all right, man.
Late. Okay.
So that was Billy DaMota, you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories as much as I probably obviously did. We might, like I said in the beginning, have another episode at some point. I was really into those stories, and he's a cool guy. So we have many more cool guests coming up. I don't want to say who they are. I'd rather you just subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss anything. And if you like what we're doing here, if you could just leave a rating and review there on iTunes, it would really help. It just it's not about likes. It's about Apple, you know, promoting the show. So that's how they do it. And everything that we talked about, all the little references, movies and stuff, I posted up on the Triumph and Disaster blog, triumphanddisasterblog.com. You can see it on the Billy DaMota podcast number 10 there. And hope you guys enjoy what we're doing. We have some really cool guests coming up. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.